SEC Media Day coverage from Nashville, Tennessee, getting closer to football. We're about to talk to one of the faces of the SEC, both when he played the game, but as a media person. As always, our coverage brought to you by mybookie.ag.
Yeah, don't forget code next round. Way to go to mybookie.ag. Code next round gets you that sign-on bonus up to $1,000 for all the games. mybookie.ag. Chris Doering, the Florida great, now SEC Network at SiriusXM with us. What's happening, Chris?
Good to be on with you guys, man. It's nice to be in person, too. It is kind of a fun time of year. I feel like it's like the first day of school. Everybody kind of get back together. You got the excitement and the jitters, and, man, it's hard to believe we're almost on the cusp of football season again.
What do you do to get away and decompress in the offseason? Was it in 2020 when you were like one of the first personalities with COVID?
Yeah.
And you were on a boat or something? Am I dreaming this, a fever dream?
Wow. You're right.
That's a good memory.
Ill-advised trip probably during COVID that resulted in me, both of my kids, multiple friends all having COVID. But better times now. Just still like to travel a lot. Just got off a week-long trip to the Grand Canyon. My son and I did a father-son trip as part of this father-son group. Last year we went to Hawaii. This year we went to the Grand Canyon, rafted down 188 miles of the Colorado River over 6 days, 5 nights sleeping on the banks of the river under the stars, no tent, just the cot out there. It was really awesome. And I mean, the best part about it was disconnecting, not having any cell service, not having a choice whether you wanted to or not to be able to connect with anybody else outside of who was there. It was a great experience for me, but even better, I think, for the kids on the trip to understand, man, there's life outside of social media and your phone.
I just did Arizona, everything minus the 188 miles of rafting and sleeping outside. No fear of rattlesnakes or anything when you're sleeping outside at night?
No, I was all right with that. They have you on cots, so they're not snuggling up with you in your sleeping bag, looking for heat. The only fear that we had, I think, was running out of alcohol, but we did a good job of supplying, our boat with enough to make it for the 6 days.
Was it guided rafting, or were you?
It was. No, so it's one of 14 person raft, 2 guides on there, and actually I asked our guide. He was talking about rattlesnakes, and there was one I think that came through the camp, and he ended up picking it up by the neck. No fear whatsoever. This guy make you feel really safe while you're out there on the river. I said, well, what are you scared of yourself? He goes, I'm scared of dolphin. I'm like, dolphin? Like, they're the nicest creatures around. He goes, sharks are scared of dolphins, so I figure I should be scared. Yeah. So this is a guy that had a much different life experience out west than what we did in Florida.
Is this guy like the Jack Palance of City Slickers?
He was River Jesus. Like this guy knew everything as it related to being outside. Said he's scared of flying as well. Has only been on a plane once. So again, a very different upbringing than what most of us have experienced in the Southeast.
All right, let's talk some football with you. As you come to SEC Media Days, I think everybody feels like it's Alabama, Georgia, LSU. Is that too nearsighted if you're looking at this conference?
I'm going to restate kind of the way that you presented to me. Georgia, LSU, and then Alabama.
Right.
I honestly believe LSU gets back to the SEC championship game again this year, partly because they finished the season maybe playing as complete a football team that I saw, and secondly because I really think Alabama kind of takes a little bit of a step back this year. And so many times we've talked about Nick Saban's ability to replace coordinators. He's tasked with doing that both on the offense and defensive side this year, but I mean, it's been a while since we haven't had a clear picture of who the quarterback was going to be heading into the season. And I honestly believe that is going to result in the offense maybe being a little less dynamic than they've been in past years. And I still have questions about O-line and receivers, 2 position groups I think that have underachieved what the Crimson Tide standard has typically been.
You know what's fascinating to me is year 2 Billy Napier. Nobody's talking about Florida. And when you guys were here, I mean, y'all were the alpha.
Yeah.
And, Billy gets his signature win week 1 last year against Utah, and then things got really inconsistent and worse at a lot of times. And he had a guy in Anthony Richardson that goes in the top 10.
Yeah, he's been very adamant about the fact that this year's offense is going to be better than last year's. And that's kind of hard to believe given the fact Anthony was a top 5 pick in the NFL draft a couple months back. But I honestly think his perspective is more of a better unit, a better team. You may not have the exploits of what Anthony Richardson was able to do in terms of putting the team on his back, but he feels like Graham Mertz, a guy they brought over from Wisconsin, has the football IQ they're looking for, understands, getting them into the best play possible at the line of scrimmage, distributing the football properly, and that he's going to be surrounded by better talent. The 10 players around him are going to be better. Like, I have questions after calling their spring game. The offense did not look very good there. But I do think part of it had to do with Austin Armstrong's defense. They're going to be much better defensively than what they were last year. And I think the offensive line is something they'll be able to depend on. And the running back trio is amongst the best in the conference. So I think Florida's game plan this year is to play great defense, run the football, limit mistakes, and win close football games.
One of the things we've been talking about all week long is, what do we really know about Billy Napier? If I asked you that question, Lance is the one that brought it up.
Yeah.
What do you know about Billy Napier as a coach? Do you think he's really good, an X's and O's kind of guy?
I don't know if it's as much the X's and O's as it is in terms of the overall vision for the program. Very detailed, has put a lot of thought into what he wanted to take from what he was doing at Louisiana into getting a Power 5 job. He talked about it a lot that COVID year, putting a plan into place with everything he would need to be successful should he decide to take one of those jobs that was going to inevitably come for him. And so I think he's in the perfect spot right now. Florida has a lot of talent in that state, obviously. He's got to figure out a way to keep it in the state. Georgia, Clemson, LSU, Alabama have been able to come in and take some of the best players from the state of Florida. He's already making some good inroads there. The 2024 class is amongst the top in terms of commitments right now. But I think he can be better this year. The team can be better this year and next year, and not necessarily reflect that in wins. This season's schedule is incredibly tough. Next year's is even tougher.
Right.
Not only do you have that tough draw in the SEC, but you also have Miami, Florida State, UCF on the schedule. Florida fans need to show patience. They have the right guy. It's just going to take time to come to fruition.
In your time at Florida, you saw firsthand, to a certain degree, what Alabama and Nick Saban lived through and what Kirby Smart and Georgia are living through. And that's the path to being a dominant college football program, and then the challenge of staying dominant.
Yeah. It never seemed like it was going to end at Florida, right?
Yeah.
When Coach Spurrier had things rolling, it seemed like Florida fans expected to get to Atlanta every year because they were doing that. Now it's been a long run of not only not getting to Atlanta, but back-to-back 6-win seasons, which I never would have thought was the reality for Florida. But college football is so cyclical. Everybody else has improved. It's so competitive here in the SEC. It'll get even more competitive when Oklahoma and Texas come. It's tough to stay at the top. And credit to Kirby for what he's been able to build there, continuing to recruit really well, keeping guys there. They don't have a mass exodus of transfers when guys are asked to play role play positions or to wait their turn. And maybe the most important thing is finding that edge to keep those guys motivated. He does a great job of it.
Is that the biggest challenge to do it? I mean, how do you go? And he saw Nick Saban have to do it, so that's something he can build on. As he saw, because that 2010 Alabama team gets brought up all the time about being an underachieving team. That was a 10-win team, right? But it was a back-to-back national champion team, or an 09 team that was going for a back-to-back championship. But that's what Kirby's got to fight.
Yeah, I mean, complacency is a natural human inclination. And I think he's done a really good job of keeping guys motivated through, understanding what their role is going to be on the team, clearly defining that, and showing them the path to getting to the NFL and making a lot of money. And I think the players trust that he and his staff know what they're doing.
Settle a debate for us, and you're probably the wrong person to ask, but you did see them
We'll do it anyway.
up close and personal, and this is one of those impossible debates, but we were talking about greatest teams we've ever seen, and we were talking about 19 LSU, 2020 Alabama. Somebody brought up 95 Nebraska. Brown said 2019 LSU couldn't stop 1995 Nebraska. Dunaway and I disagreed.
Oh, they ain't stopping Nebraska. Like that Tommy Frazier team was rolling offensively. I watched it up front.
Thank you.
But again, that was my last game as a college football player. One of the low points of my athletic career. It still bothers me today. Like, not only did I experience
y'all went right down first, but didn't y'all have to kick a field goal?
Yes. Yeah. So we go undefeated that year. And one of the things I loved about Coach Spurrier, we always got the ball first. If we won the toss, we were going to elect to receive. If the other team won, they were going to defer. We were going to get it anyway. We would always go right down the field and score a touchdown. We went right down the field. Danny missed me in the end zone. We had to end up kicking a field goal there. We were actually up 10-6 at the end of that first quarter. Remember, Jaquez Green gets that kick return injury, dislocates his hip. We're 30 to 40 minutes out there watching our teammate writhing in pain. I think that had something to do with it. Probably more what had to do with it was the dawn of the zone blitz. Nobody in college football was zone blitzing at that time. Our protections were predicated on Danny seeing that they were bringing more than we could protect and checking to a max protection. Well, we're going empty down around our own goal line, and they're overloading protections and showing zone behind it. And just that second quarter, things got away from us. And so adding insult to injury was the fact that Florida went back in '96 and won that national championship. So having to watch my former teammates do it without me was a little painful. But I always contend that '95 Nebraska team is amongst the best in the history of college football.
Yeah, but I'll fight for 19 LSU and 2020 Alabama.
19 LSU was amazing on offense. They would just not have. Remember, their defense was not even. John Rice Plumlee was running up and down the field. You don't think Tommy Frazier would have had some success?
Yeah, good point. So we're looking at a 67-65 final or something like that.
Yeah.
Whoever had the ball last. I understand that.
Yeah.
So you are a guy that in the role you have with our friend Peter Burns, you have to pay off some bets occasionally.
Occasionally.
The baseball outfit that you were sporting, did you play baseball back in the day? Because you wore it. I mean, I had to double take every time I saw it. Even after I knew what was going on, I was like, "Why are we got LSU in my timeline?" Oh, that's Doering again.
I should have dropped off my my athletic resume to you. I tell everybody all the time I had the greatest high school senior years in the history of high school senior years. All state in football, all state in basketball, all state in baseball. We won the state basketball championship. I was the MVP of the state basketball tournament. And I was Sky Masterson in the musical theater production of Guys and Dolls. I did everything my senior year. But, so I was a 6'4" shortstop, patterned my game after Cal Ripken Jr. And I think maybe the most humbling thing of all was the fact as I was walking through the airport, first and foremost, people wanted to know why I was such a big LSU fan. They didn't want to know why I was wearing a full baseball uniform in the airport, which I thought was a little odd. But the second thing was that they kept referring to me as a coach. And in my mind, I was thinking, these people are going to think I'm a player. And then I forgot that I'm 50 years old. And most of the people see me that way a little differently than I see myself.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, man, at 50, that's when we start to lose a little strength. But are you maybe the strongest you've been?
I'm definitely the strongest I've been, the biggest I've been as well. I always fought trying to keep weight on when I was playing. It was hard. But even so, my sophomore year, the year that I caught that pass against Kentucky that kind of put me on the map, I was 6'4", 175 pounds playing in the SEC. Like that, it's hard to even fathom that. My senior year, I was up like 193. In the NFL, I played about 205. I'm about 210 now. But I don't know if you guys heard about the other thing that kind of went wrong for me this week. Dari Noka and I had a conversation about a month ago on SiriusXM, our show there, about how difficult it is to hit a golf ball, how frustrating that is, and it's just sitting there. And we started talking about hitting a baseball, and both of us thought in a pitching machine situation, throwing 95, we would both make contact. So somehow this thing steamrolled into our producer reaching out to the Nashville Sounds. They had us out last night. This thing got hyped up a little bit. Dari won the toss. He elected to go first. I had to go in the dugout, so I didn't see any of it. I come out. He hit 5 of 10 at 95 miles per hour.
Dari did?
No.
Yes. I got up there and went 0 for 10. I went 0 for 10, and it was one of the most humbling, because I've lost bets a lot lately, but it's been because of what somebody else has done. I went out there, my own athleticism failed me, and went 0 for 10 and lost to Dari Noka in something that
dude, 95's bringing it. Where was he? He had to be getting cuts the last couple of weeks.
No, but
that's the conspiracy. And they gave me a 32-inch bat. I'm like a 34. I need more plate coverage.
Yeah.
No?
Well, was Dari just doubling,
he was laying down bunts.
dribbling into double plays, and you were swinging for the fence? There had to be something.
I was definitely swinging for the fence.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. But the timing was a little bit off. I got to be honest.
Were you seeing the ball well?
I thought I was seeing the ball well, but two things. We talked about my age again. One, the eye-hand coordination not there, maybe like it used to be. And
95's bringing it.
It's bringing it. So it was actually what they say is that the pitch machine they have doesn't throw 95, so they put it at about, I think, 55 feet or something at like 75, so it's the equivalent and the same reaction time. But what made it worse after Dari and I went is that, Aaron Murray was there. Aaron Murray went 0 for 7 on soft toss and then proceeded to hit some and play off of the pitching machine. Even Chris Childers, maybe the least athletic guy out there, put one into play, and I didn't. So I've had to deal with that for the last 24 hours.
I pictured Childers holding the bat with separated hands.
Exactly.
Like he's a slap hitter in softball.
Exactly.
That's the way I picture him.
He made Rick Neuheisel. I
Rick's
love
a good athlete, though.
Yeah, but he's like 65.
I know.
You know? I mean,
So he put some in play.
he put one in play and then threw the bat and shut it down.
I cannot believe, like, just looking at Dari on this. I guess this is
I
why
know.
you can't judge book by cover.
I guess, he's definitely not going to translate in football. Not in basketball either, but I guess maybe a second base, shortstop type guy that can make contact.
He's Omar Vizquel.
I guess.
Yeah, Dari to me is the kid we send over the fence. What's that movie, Sandlot?
Sandlot.
Go retrieve
get
the ball.
Yeah,
go get the ball for us.
So Alyssa did little pregame interviews with us. He's got his batting helmet on. He looks like the Martian from Bugs Bunny. You remember that guy?
Marvin Martian?
Yeah, it looked exactly like that.
Yes. Before you go, last time you were mistaken for Chris Collinsworth.
You know what? It happens.
But
It happens a
Collinsworth
lot.
never could put weight on, right?
Collinsworth, yeah, he might be even more narrow than I am, which it's a compliment because my whole life I wanted to pattern my game after Chris Collinsworth. Now I want to pattern my TV career after him. But multiple times I've had people tell me that they were in school with me back in 81. I'm thinking 81, I was 8 years old. That's the biggest insult to me at this point in time. I'm so age sensitive that people think I'm Chris, and Chris is probably 13, 14 years older than me, so that's not a compliment at this point.
He is Chris Doering, not Chris Collinsworth. SEC Network. Our coverage presented in part by our friends at Hemp Hill Services.
Yeah, Hemp Hill Services wants to remind you they're offering 0% for 60 months for qualified customers, plus free 10-year labor warranty when you mention the next round. Call Adam, Chad, Andrew, the guys at Hemp Hill Services. Make sure that HVAC unit ready to keep up with the changing weather. It's hard to stop a train. Call 205-229-2090 or hemphillservices.com.
And also mybookie.ag, code next round to sign up. Thank you for the time, as
You guys
always.
are the best. You're the first people that I've done sit-downs with outside of what I've done on set, and wouldn't miss the opportunity to do this with you every year.
man.
Thanks
Means the
for
world.
having me.
How's your
Fantastic.
dog, by the way?
Butters.
Your dog.
Oh, Butters is great, man. Butters is at home right now. He got neutered recently, so he's just getting over the impact of that, the betrayal that I had on him. But he's great. My little Morky, I think the 12-year-old's great, and missing those guys this week.
You know how disappointed the behind-the-camera crew gets when Butters isn't in the Zoom shot with you?
He thinks he's the star of the show.
I know. They love it. They
yeah,
love it.
He's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
All right. He is Chris Doering of the SEC Network at SiriusXM.